Hey, yo, what's decent? Now, I have a crazy match against Steve and an exhilarating match against Joey. But before I post those two battles, I'm going to interrupt that sequence and post a battle that I had against TonyFlygon. When I first laid eyes on this team, I was like, oh my lord, I lost. What is the point of playing? And I just came from losing a battle. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's just see. Maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna give it my best. I don't see myself winning right now. So he's gonna start with another layer of spikes. Well, actually, his first layer of spikes, my bad. And I'm gonna go into Goodra because Goodra has a Thunderbolt. It's more so for Exumerals because Exumeral is a huge answer. It's a common switching, I should say, to Goodra. Anything fairy type actually is a common switch into a dragon type nowadays, you know? So he's gonna switch out into his Furrow Baby just to see what I would do, and then switch right back out into Skarmory just to continue to lay up his energy hazards. I switch out into my Ferrothorn because Ferrothorn was, I guess, an optimal play in my opinion to switch out into his Furrow Baby because it's part steel, and I can start laying up Leech Seed and Spikes, so he continues to set up entry hazards of his own. And speaking of entry hazards, I haven't even EV trained anything with Stealth Rocks yet. Yo, Kashyyyf, what you doing, son? And that's hilarious because I EV trained 2 Pokemon that have spikes, 3 with toxic spikes, even 1 with sticky web, and I don't even have 1 with the core entry hazard? Are you kidding me? Oh my god, what are you doing, Kashyyyf? What? Hello? Oh my god, okay, so I'm gonna set up my my second layer of spikes. It's him that sets up his third layer of spikes before switching out. He's gonna switch out into his Gorgeous, which is actually a great play because assuming that I would set up another Leech Seed, assuming that I would know that he would switch out, which I did know that he was gonna switch out because why would he like Brave Bird or Ferrothorn, especially after being Leech Seeded, you know? So he switches out into that thing. I don't know what support moves this thing carries. I mean, it's Ghost, so I guess it would be common sense for it to carry Will-O-Wisp, but this is actually my first time playing against this thing on the competitive spectrum, so I don't know what to expect. I don't even know this thing was a physical wall. You know, he told me over Skype. I was like, yo, what kind of wall is this? He's like, oh, it's physical. Because I know he plays walls, you know, but I'm like, okay, wow, okay. So he switches out into his Fur Baby, and then I'm just going to switch out into my Staraptor after switching out into Goodra, because I guess Flare Baby, like I said earlier on, is the answer to Goodra. It's a special wall, and there's nothing really that Goodra can do to this thing. And I know this thing gets access to Wish, too, so I'm very wary of that. So I'm gonna go into U-turn and I guess switch priority on his Skarmory switching, which is great. And I'm thinking like, okay, maybe instead of going to Goodra and repeating the process again for him only to like Wish or whatever, or maybe to go into Goodra and then switch out into something else only for him to like Brave Bird and or Roar, I want to switch into my Gliscor because of my Gliscor because my Gliscor has Taunt. And being that, you know, since I have Taunt, Skarmory loses, assuming that he was staying. I mean, I don't know why he was staying. He has all kinds of Pokemon to choose from at this point. But assuming that he does stay in with Skarmory on my Gliscor, it would only take recoil damage, assuming also that he has the Brave Bird from the Brave Bird, while I can just like roost off the damage periodically. So it doesn't make sense. Anyway, so he switches out into his Ditto to copy my Gliscor so that he can set up rocks, which is what his thought process was. But like I said earlier, I do not have a Pokemon that can set up Stealth Rocks. So I predicted switch out into Skarmory, hence me using Close Combat, which is a potential 2-hit KO on the Skarmory, so I know he's not going to want to lose the Skarmory just yet. So I switched right out into my Gliscor just to see what he would switch out into. Not that I was predicting the Tentacle switching, but I just did want to see what he would switch out into. Preferably, like, since he has walls, my Gliscor does have Taunt, he has Gorgeous, he has Fleur Bebe, you know, things that can get taunted and crippled to an extent where it will be considered almost useless. So he switches out into Tentacruel like you guys did see. Me thinking that he was going to go for the Rapid Spin, I stay in and go for the Earthquake, but he goes for the Scald, so I'm like, okay, he might predict me to switch out, which I do switch out because I know Gliscor is hella important right now, you know, I don't want to waste it, you know, just on an over prediction. So I switch out into my Ferrothorn, he switches out into Ditto, me thinking that he was going to lock himself onto Taunt and or Earthquake. I switch right out into Staraptor, but he makes a great play and goes for the Toxic, but unfortunately it's going to miss because Staraptor holds his breath, baby, avoided the attack by holding his breath, man. So I'm going to go out and use U-turn because I'm thinking that he's going to want to switch in since he's locked onto Toxic. So he switches out into Tentacruel. Tentacruel doesn't quite die from the U-turn. It is a resisted hit, but I'm going to switch into my Aegislash, which I didn't even think about before when Tentacruel came in initially. I guess that's why he went for the Skull, because he was predicting me to go into my Spin Blocker, being this thing, the Aegislash, to block him Rapid Spinning my entry hazard. So I guess that makes sense now. I didn't even think about that. That didn't even cross my goddamn mind. Oh my god. So now he's going to frisk and find out out that I do have the Kasab Berry, so I'm gonna switch into my Goodra, and he's gonna go for the Will-O-Wisp, which is great, man. I'm like, oh my gosh, do not attack me. Do not attack me. That's what I was thinking in my mind. So now I can go for the rest freely as he switches out, which is perfect. And he switches out into Tyranitar. He does not know that I have Focus Blast, because what Goodra, come on, what Goodra have you seen has Focus Blast? Name one. Name one. That's what I thought. So I'm gonna go to sleep and wake up with the Chestnut Berry, which is great. I'm a special wall, so I guess he feels that he threatens me, being that Tyranitar is more physical oriented than it is a special oriented. Plus, I outspeeded, but unfortunately for me, he does have the Chople Berry, so he sets up entry hazards. I know that he's not gonna want to stay in with the Tyranitar, but the important thing is that I did cripple it, so that's great. I'm gonna go into my Ferrothorn just to see what he will switch out to. You know, I know Ferrothorn is utmost important. Ferrothorn and Gliscor are my two most important things that I have right now. He switches out into a Fur Baby, so I'm like, yes, you take typical effective damage from steel types, but I'm thinking like he still has Skarmory left over, so I'm like, okay, you know what? Even if he does have Skarmory, I can go for the Leech Seed, right? Even if I did know that he was going to decide to switch in. With Skarmory, he's going to go for the Roost, and I can switch into Staraptor to get around the switch-in limitation that Staraptor does have now, thanks to the Stuff Rock being in play because of the Leech Seed. So now I'm going to do just that. I know he's going to go for the Roost, but I'm going to lock myself into Brave Bird. I know nothing else on this party is going to really appreciate our Brave Bird. Plus, if he goes and uses Brave Bird himself, he'll take Recoil, I'll recover with the Leech Seed and all that other stuff, and I know since I'm banded, Brave Bird will do, I guess, a little over 30% or something like that. I mean, he can't like necessarily stay in. I'm thinking like he just can't stay in general with it. Either that or he's just gonna roar me out. So he roosts to see what I would lock myself into. I guess he wasn't expecting me to go for a secondary Brave Bird, and I do just that. Not only because the animation is cool, I get a critical hit, but because it's damage on the Skarmory. And plus he roars me out into Gliscor. So that's amazing, man. You guys already know that I can taunt faster than his threats can respond to my Gliscor. So I'm gonna do just that, and just in case, for the odd chance that he decides to stay in with Skarmory for whatever reason for 2 turns, I was gonna taunt twice. So he switches out into his Fur Baby, and then afterwards I taunt it like I did say. I do outspeed and go for the Earthquake, which is neutral damage, and now it's at a range where if he decides to switch out and come right back in, Fur Baby would automatically die. So that's great that I got the special wall out of the way, and my Goodra is free to do whatever it wants also. That's huge, guys. So now Gorgias comes into play. I'm gonna go for the Roost. I supposed to go for the taunt initially, because if I went for the taunt, he could Seed Bomb and then Shadow Sneak combo me to oblivion. So that's what I was thinking. So taunt was initially too obvious in my opinion. So now I'm gonna go for the taunt secondary as he Seed Bombs me, which doesn't do enough, and he figures that, yo, I can't kill this Gliscor, and that's good game, Kashish. So I definitely did have a lot of fun. TonyFlygon, thanks for the game. A battle with Joey and Steve is coming up very soon. Peace. What you doing?